Hello, my name is Wanda Dowden, and thank you for coming to give the speech on using visual aids effectively. Before we get into the speech, I'd like to introduce yourselves.
Sarah Handy.
Brittany Kaplan.
Dennis Bass-Mason.
Thank you so much. There's an evaluation form that I have on the desk for you, so as we go through the presentation, just fill out the evaluation form and give it back to me at the end of the class, okay? The speech is going to be on, as I said earlier, using visual aids effectively. And the purpose of the speech is to inform my audience of how to use visual aids effectively during a speech or presentation. Most speakers must be able to engage the audience with different types of visual aids to stimulate, highlight, and to convey important information. Always try to remember that when doing so, whenever you're using any type of visual aid, it's to assist you. You cannot use it as a crutch throughout your presentation. So just imagine, you've done a lot of speeches, and you've gotten evaluations back, and your evaluations were always crappy, only because your visual aids were not substantial. Well, now I'm going to take you through some very important information pertaining to visual aids that'll help you boost your visual aids up and give the audience the big picture of what you're trying to convey. By doing this, it will assist you in delivering a powerful, thought-provoking presentation or speech. Try to go back a couple of years and just envision, we didn't always have a lot of visual aids or methods to deliver visual aids. Maybe 30 years ago, we were still using the typewriter to type on in order to do your speech or write it out. That's all you had. And when you came in to do a speech, that's what you handed everyone, was either a handout as a visual aid in order for them to get the information clear. Well, now, jump into the future. We are together. We have several different types of visual aids that can assist you. But first, let's talk about what a visual aid is. And a visual aid is something that's instructional, that can be used as a device to enhance or support or deliver a message very clearly. And we have several different types of visual aids. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through all the visual aids, or most of the visual aids that you can utilize during your speech or your presentation. Normally, when you deliver your speech, as noted by the Pocket Guide, it'll let you know visual aids appeal to two basic ways we process information. Studies show that we remember 30% of what we hear, but 60% of what we see. So that tells you that what a person is looking at when you're delivering your speech, even though they're hearing you, they visually should have some information to follow, because they're going to remember the main points by what they see in front of them. So the types of visual aids that we're going to start with is the first one, that's a prop. Props and models are normally used, let's just say you have a speech about airplanes and how airplanes are built. Well, it's great you're talking about that, but a person that's visual or that needs something to see, it would be great for you to bring in a prop of an airplane or the pieces to show how an airplane is put together. That way, they have a visual aid to assist them. When it comes to your graphs and your charts, graphs and charts are used mainly to convey different types of information that either has a flow or a process, or that you need to show a difference in contrast between one or the other. That's what you normally want to use your charts and your graphs for. The use of charts and graphs are normally used for representing data, relationships between main ideas, and it shows a clear process or a thought. The Pocket Guide also talks about the use of multimedia. Now, multimedia brings into a lot of things when you want to talk about multimedia. Multimedia includes audio clips, video clips, data, and text. A good place to start using audio clips, or multimedia is what I call it, is when you have to deliver a presentation and include maybe documentaries. You're not going to verbally talk about the documentaries. You probably want to queue up a presentation that's going to run a video and audio clip for you so that you can visually see them talk about the documentary so that the audience is not missing any valuable points. So that's another type of visual aid for you, and those are multimedia. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay. using the video and audio clips, it's great because it also shows you a lot of humor and it keeps your audience really active in listening to you and paying attention. When working with the visual aids, it's also important to know to prepare in advance and to know when to cue the visual aid for your speech or presentation. That is so important in order to keep it flowing smoothly. What you want to avoid is never put your visual aids up before you're ready to talk about them. Like for instance, when it comes to talking about the plane, you don't want to start talking about the plane in the middle of your presentation, but yet your prop has been sitting there for the longest and everyone in your audience is wondering, why is that sitting there? So it's important to put up the prop when you are beginning to talk about it, or you can have someone else bring it in as you're beginning to start. So using your visual aids effectively helps your presentation in those key ways. Now we're going to talk about the ways to deliver your visual aids. Methods used to display visual aids. A couple of years ago, we used to have the overhead transparencies. It was that big locky thing that sat on your desk, and it had the huge little face to it. And you used to take that little glass or plastic transparency, and you would actually write on it or type on it, and then put it on the glass. And that's how you saw this type of presentation. Now, we're a lot better. We're with technology, so instead of using transparencies or even the slide projectors, where you had to get your little slides and slide them in the little cartridges, we've gotten past that. Even though you'll find that a lot of your technical people still do use that because it's easier for them, those things can be lost, transparencies can be damaged. So now we're using the LCD projector and the digital projector. Why? Because now you can actually utilize software like PowerPoint, Word, and a lot of other different types of software to actually present your presentations on a slide or on a visual. So your visual is what you use. It could be your software, but the way you display it or the method is by an LCD projector or a digital projector. Any questions about the methods used? Okay. Some other methods that we use as a visual is posters and flip charts to introduce examples or write down information gathered during a speech. For instance, let's just say you wanted to talk about, again, the airplane, but yet you want them to have a takeaway. You can give them a handout at the end of class that shows the diagram of the airplane and how you put it together, and that's a handout that's used as a visual aid that they can take home with them and view. You can also, during class, use a poster or flip chart to write down information to keep the class thinking about the main topics that you put together. So that's the ways of using the methods to deliver your visual aids. Now, when doing your visual aids, there's a lot of things you have to avoid, which I know I sometimes get into this habit of moving close to my presentation, but you want to avoid doing that. You want to avoid standing in front of the aid, which is your LCD projector or screen. You want to display your aids only when needed. Don't put them out ahead of time, and avoid using them as a crutch. Your visual aid is a stimulation. You don't want to follow it through and just read bullets. It is a stimulation to help the audience, not really you. You should know your presentation or speech. And of course, do not use too many visual aids at one time. When using the visual aids, there are some important guidelines that we just went over. And Jennifer E. King wrote in her article, Conquering the Woes of Public Speaking, that you should not let your visual aids steal your spotlight. They are to be used only as an aid, not a crutch. What I did was I sent around an audience analysis to everyone, and all of you seem to be using PowerPoint. You know how to use the LCD projectors. 90% of you said that you love using the visual aids and you don't use them as a crutch, and that was great. Some of the questions I have for you is, what I'd like you to do for me is name 2 types of visual aids that we just spoke about. Sarah, can you name one?
Flip chart.
The flip chart is good. Brittany?
Overhead transparency.
Thank you. And what is the visual aid normally used for?
Enhance your speech.
Speaking, or just as a support for you. Name 2 things to avoid when using a visual aid.
Maybe depressing. And using it as a crutch.
Thank you very much, and you enjoy your evening, and thank you for being and answering all the questions.